Do I look like Van Morrison today? I feel like Van Morrison. What do you think it feels like to feel like Van Morrison? Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to go into something else. I'm going to talk about songwriting. It took me several years to get to where I could speak confidently about songwriting publicly because I'm completely without any credentials or successes. I've made, I think, I'm not joking here, $48 on songs royalties. Well, that also includes mechanical royalties because the recordings were mine. I've written some songs people remember from 35 something years, like as far away as Australia. But I wrote songs to get away from what I thought I was supposed to be doing, which is be a brilliant novelist, which is, I kind of summed up the difficulty there, is I didn't want to write brilliant novels. Not that you can sort of predetermine whether it's brilliant or not, but I just wanted to be one, without really having to do the becoming part. Maybe I've got that backwards. Anyway, my default mode of escape is songwriting. It's like some, archangel appointed me to write songs as if, maybe they did. I don't know. I don't see any written evidence of it. I don't see any like remuneration evidence of it. I think I wrote a bunch of songs before I ever collaborated with anyone. And then I felt I always had enormous trouble with lyrics, which is weird because I, wrote for a living. I got paid for it. I used to find lyrics just extremely, I just agonized over them. And it's interesting because I was so like greasy with words, as a paid writer. Always a full-time writer, journalist, wrote about music, art, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I was completely frozen up at one point. I was coming up with melodies and guitar pieces I really liked, but I just couldn't get any lyrics going. So I got together with a newspaper friend of mine, and a lot of poetry people are very musical, whether or not they play an instrument, because poetry is tonal in image, in actual utterance of syllables and so forth. Anyhow, this friend of mine, Sal, was not the least bit tonally, well, I think he's probably as close to tone deaf as anybody ever met. He wasn't very musical whatsoever, but he was, just kind of a rogue and a wit, and had a similar sense of absurdity and just the general weirdness of it all, a sense of the unreality of reality. So we sat down and scratched out some lyrics, but the method I used to write lyrics as someone who may not be even the least bit musical, if you can kind of go da 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 da, if you can count sort of just a little bit of beat, that's all it needs. And it's just, if you somebody you like, hang out with, there's nothing else to do. I don't know, I always considered, however silly the song was, to be completely immortal. But here's how I got Sal on board with, and one or two other people along the way with collaborating on lyrics. Because you say, hey, most people, let's write a song, and either they're completely silly like you are, and they're like, sure, why not? Or they're like, that sounds really, I wouldn't know how to do that. But it's really, kind of idiot proof. I mean, I think there would be a small percentage of the population who has got so little rhythm they couldn't do. There's like, I mean, they're in control now. Anyway, let me show you here. Here's what I. Yeah, so here's my dummy lyrics. So I write some dummy lyrics. There might be a phrase or two in here it's worth keeping by accident, but this is actually a method that, and you can see my morning regimen here, although that's gonna quit. I'm just like drinking like so much coffee. I'm so whacked out and deranged. So this song I'm writing is called something like, the working title is Woeful Blues. And so I write some dummy lyrics, just silly, as fast as I can. So we're sitting here and, the country's going up in flames, and I'm writing a apocalypse song, kind of a lullaby. So I take my coffee black, can't get most sugar in my tea, but when I close my eyes, I'm terrified by what I see. Tectonic plates are crashing like cymbals in my ears. That wave is gonna lock you out of time before your years. That didn't click too well. Okay, now there's gonna be a middle 8, and then I'm gonna play this. I cannot hear the planets, they may not talk to you. I will not call you Janet, I don't care what you do. So, and I don't know, maybe that's gonna repeat twice. Now, okay, let me remind you, these are dummy lyrics, and there might be a phrase or two that we keep, but this is a template so that my friend, who's a poet, he's very musical actually, kind of just riff on it. I'm kind of exhausted from writing lyrics. I've been writing a lot, and I'm trying to finish a bunch of stuff. These are kind of projects that are taking form, at least in my head. I want to just get this, I don't know, it's sort of like a clearance, it's packaging up karma that I'm going to stop there with the metaphor. I've made literally about $47 from royalties on my songs. I've written many dozens of songs, and I've had some fairly high praise from people you've heard of, but I'm not going to go there because it doesn't matter. My point is that that's not why I did it. That was kind of a random thing where, like, people who are most incredible songwriters in the universe thought my stuff was really good. Anyway, I've reached this point. I've really accumulated too many unfinished songs. I haven't collaborated with too many people on songs, and the only people I have collaborated with have been really close friends, and all of them have been from the South. I had some connection to Kentucky, except for one, but I think he was down in Muscle Shoals. I wrote my first song, I think, at about the age of 8. I mean, I was sitting on the piano bench next to my mother when I was 2.5, singing her, surrounded by, bongo drums, tape recorder, the whole thing. So I wrote something, it was kind of a riff on a Haydn piece. I was taking piano lessons and not really doing all that great, to the extent that I couldn't sit there and make myself read music to save my life. I had severe ADHD. Nobody even knew what that was then. However, my mother was sympathetic to this because she was an ear player. She could sort of read music a little bit like me and understood chord structure and harmonics really well. She had an incredible ear. So I got enough formal music kind of stuffed in me to hold it together and take off from there. I was just always more interested in making my own stuff up than playing for a long time. It takes quite a lot of audacity to write a song. If you're 8 years old, people are, your parents are just delighted by it. When you're a teenager, it fucking freaks them out. Especially if you live hitchhiking distance from Nashville like we did. Your mother is just afraid you're going to go down to Nashville and turn into a fucking pillhead and come back wrecked and disordered like all other guys from where I'm from who went to Nashville did. It was not a completely irrational fear. However, as the great John Lee Hooker said, it's in him. Boogie chillin'. It's in him and it's gonna come out or something like that. I have to revive my memory on